Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Drones for Good. We have a wonderful program in store for you today. Before we begin, we have a few housekeeping items. Please note that today's webinar will be recorded. Additionally, should you have questions that you would like to submit during today's program, you may submit them through the chat box at the bottom of your screen. With that, I would now like to turn things over to Eric Tannenblatt, the Global Chair of Denton's Public Policy and Regulation Practice. Over to you, Eric.
Thank you and good afternoon, and welcome to the Drones for Good webinar sponsored by the Small UAV Coalition. My name is Eric Tannenblatt, and I'm the chair of Denton's Global Public Policy Practice, as well as the head of Denton's Global Autonomous Vehicle Group. It's a special honor for me to be here based on the ladder to introduce Representative Rick Larsen of Washington State, who will deliver opening remarks for this webinar. Following Congressman Larsen, we're pleased that he will also take a few questions from Tanya Schneider of Politico. And we're honored to have Tanya with us today to moderate the program as well. Representative Larsen was elected in 2000, serves as chair of the House Aviation Subcommittee, which has broad jurisdiction over aviation, both manned and unmanned. He also serves on the Armed Services Committee and chairs the bipartisan U.S.-China Working Group. In his position as chair of the House Aviation Subcommittee, Representative Larsen was responsible for moving two significant FAA reauthorization bills through Congress, both of which have been critical to the development of the UAS industry. In 2016, Congress included many UAS provisions in a short-term extension of FAA programs. In 2018, Congress passed a 5-year reauthorization bill. In both cases, it was Representative Larsen's leadership that enabled a strong bipartisan bill that was applauded by the entire aviation community. In this Congress, the subcommittee's focus, understandably, has been on improving FAA safety oversight and certification in the wake of the Boeing 737 MAX accidents. And we expect this committee to lead the way on a potential infrastructure bill in the 117th Congress. The Small UAV Coalition considers Representative Larsen a friend and looks forward to his continued leadership in promoting the safe integration of drones into the navigable airspace. Thank you for joining us today, Congressman, and we look forward to your remarks.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the chance to address the Small UAV Coalition and the participants as well. And it's good to see Tanya again, who will be asking questions. She reminded me that she hasn't seen me since March. And then she followed up with a great punchline, I haven't seen anyone since March. And I think we all kind of feel that way these days. We're looking forward to the vaccines getting distributed this month to healthcare workers first, law enforcement and first responders soon after. And then the phase 1B, at least in my state, probably other states, will be vaccines to those who are 65 and over and have otherwise underlying healthcare conditions that require that. So it is possible, we may be seeing each other in person at some point before the end of next year, probably well before the end of next year. But I'm glad to be here and to discuss drones, UAVs, UAS, with the 2018 authorization bill as a strong foundation. I think that we can look forward to the next year where we continue to explore not only what is possible in the airspace and in aerospace and aviation, but what is necessary to be sure the U.S. continues to innovate. One priority that I've always had is for the subcommittee is a safe integration of UAS into the national airspace. And we're going to continue to monitor that very closely next year. Drones are flourishing in the skies that we could not have anticipated this a decade ago. There's a lot of things that you sign up to do in Congress that you want to do, that you say you're going to do when you run for office, and then all this other stuff happens too, and you realize, oh, that's my responsibility to work with that set of issues. And so, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have seen this coming. I'm sure there's some luminaries and visionaries on today's webinar who did, but we'll do our best and continue to do our best as the FAA estimates the small hobbyist drone fleet will grow to nearly 1.5 million units by 2024, and the commercial fleet about 828,000 units. And there's no denying the extensive social benefits as well. I've seen drones in my own district used to perform critical infrastructure inspection of bridges, of railroads as well, to assist in recovery efforts following natural disasters and wildfires. During the pandemic, healthcare providers have used drones to deliver medical supplies, personal protective equipment, and prescription medication. So clearly, drones can be used for good. So while collaboration between the FAA and other agencies and industries continue, we're still far from full integration. So we in Congress will continue to work with the FAA into next year and beyond, with the industry and with key stakeholders to ensure the laws and regulations are in place to safely and efficiently integrate these new operations into the airspace. The administration, the current one, must issue a final rule requiring remote identification or remote ID for drones. Requiring drones to equip with remote ID technologies will help ensure public safety as the use of drones in the airspace continues to grow. Without a reliable mechanism to identify drones, particularly those flying in unsafe manner or in sensitive areas over sensitive U.S. infrastructure and assets, advanced drone use will be nearly impossible. The aviation economy can't risk that domestic companies as well would go abroad for further drone development and deployment if we don't get a rule in place. So I understand the FAA is working diligently on this rule. I hope it will finalize a rule soon. I just wanted to use the opportunity here to once again emphasize how important this is. And I'm pleased the FAA is continuing its work on the popular UAS Integration Pilot Program, or IPP, to launch the new Beyond program. It's capitalized in my notes, so it must mean it means something other than the word beyond. And I won't bother guessing what it is. I'm sure you all know what beyond actually means. But it is the next stage in the IPP for sure. It aims to build on the success of it and address remaining challenges in drone integration, such as beyond visual line of sight and improving community and industry engagement. So with the rollout this fall of Beyond, the FAA must leverage that resulting data and testing to advance its integration work. That needs to continue, such as informing additional rulemakings and design and airworthiness criteria for type certification of drone platforms, which I imagine will be much larger drone platforms than small ones, that will enable more complex operations beyond what's currently allowed in Part 107. And I would also call on the FAA to continue to move swiftly in its development and implementation of drone traffic management, or UTM, for operators and deployment of an online aeronautical knowledge and safety test for recreational flyers, so that all drone pilots understand the rules of the sky and can operate safely. And we will just continue our robust oversight of the FAA as well regarding these and other efforts. In conclusion, safety will continue to be the top priority of the aviation subcommittee. Eric mentioned the 737 MAX. We had big goals on the committee over the last session, over the 116th Congress, but had to rightly devote a lot of time to the 737 MAX. So I'm hopeful we can get back to the original set of goals that we had, which are safety, enhancing the customer experience for those flying, maintaining global competitiveness for aviation and aerospace, and innovation in the U.S. airspace as well. I would add a fifth goal for 2021 and 22, and that is looking at the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on aviation, aerospace, and the supply chain, and the steps that we need to take to get back to where we were, close to it. So with that, I look forward to continuing to work with all of you, and turn it back over to Eric or Tanya, who's over in charge. Thanks.
I think I'm in charge.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Congressman. It's great to see you, and thanks for taking the time to be with us and for taking some questions. So much of the action when it comes to drones is with the FAA, and I just want to know from you what Congress's role is when it comes to expanding drones in the airspace and safely integrating drones in the airspace, and what your plans are for the 117th Congress when it comes to drones legislation, perhaps oversight.
Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry, I'm in my office and the buzzers are just going off and they've stopped. So I heard everything you said. I hope everyone else did too. So yeah, it's a great question. A lot of this work does take place at the FAA, but what I've tried to do, even in the minority and now in the majority, to let the FAA folks know we want to be a partner. We want this to happen. We aren't a Congress who wants to shut this down. There are opportunities that we otherwise would see happen overseas, if we don't do a safe integration. But we also have that responsibility and oversight to ensure that it is safe. And so I can envision, certainly a couple things. One is any type of oversight hearing on whatever, the next stage, looking at Beyond and what it's doing, what the FAA is doing with Beyond. Also, we have a new administration coming in, and don't want to take the thunder away from the next question, but we want to be sure that who's ever in charge, and certainly at the FAA, I imagine Steve Dixon would stay. It's not up to me to decide any of that stuff, but that there is some level of continuity where there needs to be continuity, and changes where there need to be changes. So we need to understand from the incoming administration what they want to do as well, and that'll be part of what we explore in the subcommittee as well. I will note too, because we try to do a partnership in a lot of this. One of my partners is Garrett Graves, and who is the ranking member in the 116th. I imagine he'll be the ranking member in the 117th. It's again not my decision to make, but we've talked about next year, and he, like me, we want to look at counter UAS. A lot of that discussion is taking place in the Armed Services Committee or in Homeland Security Committee. I sit on one of those subcommittees, but I've been really clear. The airspace in the United States is controlled by the civilians, not by the security agencies. And so I think in the aviation subcommittee, we're going to spend some time just ensuring that when we're talking counter UAS, as necessary as it is, that it's being done with as little interference in the safe and efficient operation of the rest of the airspace as well.
From what you've seen of the remote ID rule so far, do you think that it strikes the right balance between civilian governance of over drones in aviation and taking care of the concerns of the security community?
I think so, and I think it does. And I'm recalling, it's going to sound a little bit facetious, but it just, when the security agencies are complaining a lot, you're probably on the right track when it comes to ensure that the civilian oversight is number one, is on top of the list. You shouldn't, I've traveled in countries as part of this job where the airspace isn't controlled by civilians, and it makes me very nervous. So not that we would do it differently, but that's not what we want to do. We want to ensure that that civilian airspace, the airspace in the U.S. is managed on the civilian side.
And then you did tease my next question, which is about the Biden administration. And, as we look ahead to the incoming administration, do you expect that they will take a kind of similar approach to the balance between safety and innovation and privacy when it comes to drones? Or do you expect that they'll fall in a dramatically different place than where the Trump administration has been on these issues?
Yeah, I don't anticipate it'll be dramatically different. In the aviation subcommittee, we have tried to focus strictly on the safety side, the integration side. Privacy issues have largely been left to other committees, rightfully so. We don't really have an expertise in that. I'll be interested to see if the new administration wants to find a way to not combine them from an oversight perspective, but combine those conversations a little bit better in the future. We tried with the Drone Advisory Committee, and it got kind of wrapped around the axle around some of these privacy issues, and we'll try to work through those. But I think that I think the Chow DOT has been pretty good and pretty forward leaning on this without sacrificing the safety concerns largely. And so hopefully the Biden folks, whoever that's going to be, see it the same way, provide the same kind of policy direction within the DOT on that. Again, I go back to what I said earlier about partnerships. They should see Congress as members of Congress as partners on this. We want to see it happen. We want to see safe integration, and we hear from folks that the agency people don't hear from, and at times. And so, I think it's to the benefit of the incoming administration to let us know what their thinking is, and if they don't, we'll be sure to ask.
As will we. Well, we know how good you are. Thank you so much for being with us. We're really grateful that you took the time.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you everyone for coming on. And it's good to see you again, Tanya. We'll see you on Capitol Hill someday.
Someday.
All right.
Good luck with the move.
Yeah, thanks a lot. See you.
Thanks. So we will now turn to the rest of our panel. We have with us today Dave Newell from Verizon Skyward, Mark Jennung from Iris Automation, Nick Devereaux from Wing, John Graber from Workhorse Aerospace, and Brad Anderson from Yamaha Motor Corporation. I don't see anybody else's video. Okay, great. I think they're going to tell us about how their companies are putting drones to use, from package delivery to wildfire response, last mile solutions to agriculture. So we are going to get started with this presentation from Dave Newell from Verizon Skyward. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tanya. Good morning, actually good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm excited to be here. My name is David Newell. I'm with Skyward, which is a division of Verizon, and I'm the Aviation Development Center Operations and Facilities Director, which I manage all the integration that we do with drones into the 4G and 5G fabric of our network, which is a pretty exciting thing. And it's an honor to be here today with everybody on this panel, and all of you. And thanks for everyone for putting this together, and especially the people behind the scenes making this happen. So thank you. So if we could, let's go to slide 2. If we would, please. And what I'm sharing today is just what I think is a feel-good story on just how we're using drones and really the technology advances to help our communities and just society in general. But if I backtrack just a little bit into September of just this year, when wildfires were raging throughout the Pacific Northwest and throughout California, one of our Verizon facilities in Western Washington was, in a line of a path of a fire in the Big Hollow area. This particular facility that you're seeing is a satellite backhaul facility that allows us to have E911 communications throughout the Western United States, and it was about 18 miles away from a raging forest fire. One of the issues that we were having is there was a lot of smoke in the area. There were a lot of evacuation orders and stay and put orders, and people just don't go outside orders because the air quality was so bad and the raging fires were encroaching. This particular facility was a test facility that we'd been using for our drone integration operations. So we had to ask ourselves a couple questions. One, how do we keep this facility safe, or at least verify that it's safe? Two, how do we make sure that our equipment is safe from the fires? And three is, how do we keep our people safe without having to go out onto the roads, becoming more of a problem by getting in the way of emergency responders and firefighters? So we applied with the FAA, and we were given a waiver, as an SGI waiver, to operate for a short period of time. They gave us a 7-day window where we can operate 24/7 in an area that they also provided a TFR. This gave us the opportunity to operate our drones from a remote situation. If you go to the next slide, I'll kind of show you how that worked. I think you appreciate that. So yeah, there you go. That's perfect. so the flight operations area is where our equipment was based at. And we've been testing this for a year already through a lot of different iterations and trials and, hundreds of hours of discussions and actual flights. We had an ability to fly remotely already. It was inherently built into the system, and we've just been perfecting it. This fire came along and gave us the opportunity to go to the FAA and apply for this. But if you'll notice, all of our pilots and our navigators were, anywhere from 18 to 23 miles away. I was the operations support manager for the entire operation. I was stationed in Alaska at the time, and I was in real time monitoring all the different things that we were doing. And I did give the go ahead for this particular flight after all the checklists had been completed to actually conduct the missions. So really an essential way for us to manage all the different things that were going on in the area. With a lot of technology things. So what I'd just like to do is just kind of peel back some of the layers. So if we go to the next slide, what I'll do is show you kind of how we built this for everyone to see. What you're seeing first is a pilot station. And this is the pilots and navigation stations were fairly identical. They're very customizable. They allowed the pilots and the navigator to view a couple different screens, whatever they thought was important at the time. They did have some fixed things there that we had to have them see. But what you're seeing is the telemetry data that was being presented by the drone. You're also going to see some weather information that was provided by an aviation grade weather system. You also have an aviation grade weather radar system, NexRad radar, which we incorporated into this. And we also had a radar system that was used to detect drones and aircraft that were flying through the area. Now, the TFR that was put in place did provide us some protection from other drones encroaching the area and also from other aircraft encroaching the area, but we were surveilling just to make sure that nobody else was going to enter this area during our flights. If you take the next slide, please. Thank you, appreciate that. So this is just a layout of how all the equipment was organized. And again, we're all monitoring this equipment from anywhere from 1,100 miles away to 18 to 22 miles away. But on the top left-hand screen, you have a Doppler weather station that was built by EWR, an American-based company that was providing us services for this. Now, this type of operation, this type of weather system is what you would find in a news station or a commercial weather system. We incorporated this into our design to help keep our pilots safe and to see what was beyond the horizon, what was coming to help us with our decision-making processes. We also had our detect and avoid system, which is built by Fordham, another United States-based company. That allows us to see the manned and unmanned aircraft in the area. To the right, we have the perceptive system, which is inherently native to fly in the 4G infrastructure. And then just to the right of that, again, we had the IntelliSense system, which was giving us fantastic data on real-time weather conditions at the actual location. So we had visibility, temperature, wind speed, wind direction, and we also have a stelliometer on it, which we actually see the cloud heights, and it also gave us a 360-degree picture. So we had a lot of situational awareness while we were flying. Let's go to the next slide, please. Did I lose you? Okay, thank you, appreciate it. And really the last slide that I'll share is this one, is that we had the opportunity to keep all of our pilots and all of our staff, safely at home. If you look at the top right-hand side of that picture, that's me while I was in Alaska monitoring this operation. We were able to keep our people off of the roads and outside of the bad air conditions, and we were able to focus on using technology as an end solution. And the great thing about this is it's a repeatable solution. This is something that can be done not just for forest fires, but also for other businesses that need to manage and look at their operations. It's a remote solution that is fully flexible and usable for other operations. And so glad that we had this opportunity to showcase this. Thank you all for your time. And I think I'll turn the time back to Tanya, and maybe later for questions if those come my way.
Great. Thanks so much, Dave. Next, we have Mark Jenon from Iris Automation.
Hello, everybody. Mark here. Brian, if you'd let my video start. Well, for whatever reason, my video is not showing, but we'll go ahead and continue. Brian, would you go ahead and go to slide 2, please? So again, my name is Mark Jenon. I'm the Vice President of Flight Operations for Iris Automation. I'm responsible for the safe and efficient testing of our onboard detect technology. And I do that with a team of 8 pilots and our fleet of general aviation and small UAVs that we employ on a near daily basis to develop and improve our technology. I'm an FAA qualified private pilot and a small UAV pilot, been in the commercial industry since about 2012. And I'm, forgive me, should be on. I retired Navy captain, commanded 2 warships, and during that time period, I've employed a variety of unmanned systems, including Scan Eagle for counter-piracy operations off the Horn of Africa, disrupted any number of pirate attacks, rescued 20 hostages. I was a co-founder of a company called Hazon Solutions, where we are very focused on precision infrastructure inspection and also providing services for customers for support. And we demonstrated a number of capabilities, including supporting emergency HQs for train derailments or in those kind of events. And then finally, before I joined Iris, I was the field operations manager for Flirty, where we were very focused on doing drone deliveries, both here in the United States and overseas in New Zealand. And as part of that, for under a United Nations project, we demonstrated the feasibility, first time ever, of delivering materials from a ship to the shore and shore to ship again, following simulated fundamental infrastructure damage. So the drones for good has always been a long and abiding interest for both myself and my team. Next slide. So, so going back to fundamentals, we're here as a company to make flying safer, and we do that by enabling our customers to work with our onboard novel detection technology to enable those aircraft to avoid collisions. And our fundamental focus is within optical systems. And so we basically take advantage of the same technology that I use as a private pilot, looking out through the cockpit using my own eyes, except now we use an unblinking set of cameras with graphical processing units to understand, become aware of the environment, and then provide notifications to the onboard autopilots and other systems on aircraft to make good decisions to maneuver. So we as a company, we develop that software, we provide the hardware for our customers, and then we additionally provide services for customers to help them develop the waiver requests or develop a good solid set of concepts of operations so they can be successful in their mission to enable their operations to go beyond, if you will, and fly beyond visual line of sight. Next slide. So, and again, I told us our fundamental mission is to make flying safer, and it goes hand in hand with being able to do good and to improve the quality of life of our customers and serve those who would otherwise not be able to get the timely service they would otherwise get, especially, and we can all think of these kind of examples here during the pandemic. So when we think about that, a couple of use cases that quickly fall out are search and rescue. To imagine a family being lost and be able to launch dozens of drones to go find them, and now vector in a helicopter to effect the rescue, or such things as not only AED delivery, but vaccine delivery, as we consider the challenges of trying to vaccinate 360 million citizens here in the United States. So we're very excited as a safety company to enable these wonderful safety use cases. And so with the next slide, we'll talk more specifically what we have been doing. So we have been part of the interoperability pilot project since day one, and we've been working with 5 or 6 of our partners around the country doing great work. And I want to focus really heavily on what we've been doing with the Reno Fire Department. For those of you who've never been to Reno, it's a beautiful place. And one of the things you would see about Reno is the Truckee River, which flows from Lake Tahoe, flows through the totality of the city of Reno from the north, if you will, and eventually to the east. And it is an extraordinarily accessible river. And the Reno Fire Department has challenges with people being reported going into the river. And now they have to expend resources and people and put them at risk to go in and do the search. And so this was a head herder, if you will, for the city of Reno. And so we've been working together with our partners in Reno and with FLIR to demonstrate the capability of now, instead of employing teams to go search along a riverbank, to now deploy a drone flying beyond visual line of sight, confirm perhaps where people are or not, and then more importantly, effect an immediate rescue without putting the Reno Fire Department at significant risk. And so the next thing I'm going to show is a video that we have done where we demonstrated the feasibility of doing this over the Carson River. Again, in aviation, we take the so-called crawl, walk, run, fly approach. And so as we gain confidence in these basic building blocks, we then demonstrate the ability to do the next stages of flight operation. So I think the video is very effective at showing what exactly we're doing here. So Brian, if you start the video, please. Well, we may be fighting a bit of a technical problem here, but the video would show that we were flying with a Saxon M14, which is a two-stroke engine fixed wing drone equipped with 5 of our optical systems. And we were demonstrating the feasibility of flying over the Carson River on a prescribed route, typical to what we would have done over the Truckee River, to search for and isolate and more importantly, locate potential folks that are in the river, and then vector in the Reno Fire Department to that. And then the chief of the Reno Fire Department was very effusively noting how this again was improving their search times, limiting the risk to their firefighters, and again enabling our technology to support what's really a critical means of, again, doing good for the community and saving lives and improving the quality of life of those we serve. So we're very, very proud of this. And as Representative Larson alluded to, we're looking forward to going continuing with this process in the Beyond program. And so we intend to continue this process going forward. So we're very excited and very, very proud. And perhaps we'll get the video going.
I'm sorry, it won't play for me.
Well, I'm sorry. That's quite all right, Brian. Hopefully I spoke to it. And Tanya, I appreciate having a chance to talk about the great work we're doing here at IRIS and our efforts to enable the safe and effective operation of drones in the national airspace. Couldn't be prouder of what we've been accomplishing.
Thanks so much, Mark, and sorry about the technical difficulties with the video there. Nick Devereaux from Wing, you're up.
Great. Hello. At the risk of maybe putting Brian on the spot again, I was going to see if we could start off with a video from Wing that speaks to one of our projects that we worked on recently. So let's see if we can play this.
As a school librarian, it is extremely important to me to have connections with my students. So when we went to a period of remote learning, that became a little bit harder to do. How was I going to keep that connection with my students without actually being in the same physical space with them? When I first thought about this, I went to Dr. Mark Meyer, our superintendent of schools, and told him that I had a really, really exciting idea, and that was to use drone to provide library books to our students. Libraries provide a critical and unique service, and during this time of remote learning, our job is even more important. We need to use the available technologies to continue to provide our students with access to our resources. And Wing has provided an outlet for us to do exactly that.
Okay, great. Well, now Brian, if we could cue up the slides. That was just, I'm with Wing. That was a glimpse into one of the projects that we've been working on recently since the pandemic hit. Wing, going to slide 1, I guess. Wing is a drone package delivery company. We began in 2012 under the under the Google X Moonshot Factory as one of their projects, and more recently we have become an independent Alphabet company of our own, focused solely on developing our drone package delivery system. Currently, we are already operating on 3 different continents. That includes 2 operations in Australia, 1 operation in the US, which is in Christiansburg, Virginia, and then another operation in Europe, which is in Helsinki, Finland. We've conducted over 100,000 flights, which includes tens of thousands of flights delivering packages to real customers. As far as the US is concerned, we began our delivery operations in October of last year. That was done under the US DOT's Integration Pilot Program, or IPP. And we're continuing our operations there in Christiansburg after the IPP ended, and now moving forward with the FAA's Beyond program instead. We were the first drone company to receive our Part 135 from the FAA back in April of 2019. And in October of 2019, we received our full Part 135. So generally, our focus, as I mentioned before, is being able to use lightweight drones to make quick deliveries of lightweight packages, 3 pounds or less generally, to people within a delivery area, which is, at this point, we can fly up to 6 miles out and 6 miles back. If we could go to the next slide here. Here's a quick glimpse at our drone. We built in a number of different redundant systems for safety purposes, so that there are multiple batteries, multiple motors and propellers, and a backup navigation system. So it's designed so that if multiple propellers were to go out, the drone could continue operations. We have a lightweight and frangible airframe, much of it built out of a foam, the foam, same kind of foam that you might see in a bicycle helmet. It's a highly automated flight planning and route planning system that includes a lot of onboard fault monitoring and contingency management. And then we also have our own delivery system mechanism, which uses a tether system, so that in order to load the package onto the drone, as well as to make the delivery at somebody's house, that's done through a tether system that has a hook on the end of it. And that way, we are making deliveries directly to someone's front yard or backyard, and dropping off the package without any sort of human interaction. So there's no real human error as a result of that. You can see from these stats as well, we can move pretty quick, 70 miles an hour cruising. It's a lightweight drone, 10.6 pounds, and carries 3.3 payload. Next slide, please. Generally, the way that our system works is that we have what we call a nest, which is where the drones are housed. And usually during operating hours, they will be sitting charging on their charging pads. It's an all-electric drone. And for our customers who are within our delivery area, we will have validated a delivery zone on their property, so that they can download an app, place their orders through that app, and then they are able to, once that customer has ordered something, our merchant prepares the order, the drone collects the package, moves over to the house very quickly, comes back and comes back to its charging pad. And all of that entire process is generally done in 10 minutes or less. Next slide, please. So we of course, we've been working on this for several years. Operations in Australia have been going on for a couple of years, and we started in the US last year. But with COVID and the pandemic hitting earlier this year, everything sort of took on a new light. People changed the way that they were living and working. People were staying at home. They were working at home. Kids were learning at home. And so we really tried to see what we could do in terms of using this as an opportunity and trying to help out and assist the communities where we were already operating. We noticed a real demand for our service surging, so that delivery volumes increased 5 times that of what pre-COVID levels were. New customer signups increased by 350%. And we also looked at how we might be able to work with the community to assist both our consumers as well as local small businesses. So that ended up with us forging additional partnerships with local businesses in the area in Christiansburg. Next slide, please, Brian. So as a result of those conversations, we partnered with a local coffee shop called Brew Coffee. We worked with Mockingbird Cafe, also local, which provides breakfast pastries, sandwiches, that kind of thing. And then we also worked with the Montgomery County Public School System to launch a library book delivery over the course of this past summer. And you can see from some of these stats that while we were not able to fully replace the kind of walk-in traffic that local businesses had been getting pre-pandemic, to some extent we were able to provide a bit of a lifeline and allow them to continue serving their customers and provide a bit of additional market access. Brew was selling twice as much cold brew through drone delivery as they had been in their store prior to COVID. And Mockingbird at one point during the pandemic said that they saw they were doing 25% of their sales through drone delivery. Next slide, please. And I think all of this sort of speaks to the kind of benefits that we can provide. Wing is very focused on delivering packages that can be all kinds of different packages. During the pandemic, that's included prescription deliveries. Sorry, not prescription, but over-the-counter medication deliveries with our partnership with Walgreens. We continue to do deliveries with FedEx Express, who is a big partner of ours for providing their last mile services by drone. And I also wanted to raise this particular study conducted by Virginia Tech. We're a partner with Virginia Tech's Mid-Atlantic Aviation Partnership in the IPP, and a separate division of Virginia Tech recently conducted a study which was released in September that examined, it modeled out over the course of a 5-year drone program in 3 different kinds of cities across the US, a small one like Christiansburg, as well as 2 larger ones, Columbus, Ohio, and Austin, Texas, to see what sort of impact drone package delivery could have. And you can see stats here on this page. It's pretty interesting just in terms of the impacts that we could have. And this is all in the theme of drones for good. We can provide access to residents who lack a car. We can reduce road use by essentially taking 26,000 cars off the road, lowering emissions. All of those things are additional benefits that we can see while also providing customers and people the items that they need in a quick and reliable and safe fashion. And I would just like to quickly, I know I'm out of time and I apologize for that, just quickly add one more thing. One very important part of what Wing does is our community engagement. Package delivery is very focused. It's very heavy in terms of touches with community members since we're delivering to them each and every day. So it was a huge priority for Wing to be able to go into our communities and speak to them prior to actually launching service. And through a lot of that engagement, we developed a very positive relationship with our communities. Christiansburg, Virginia, we have a very wonderful relationship both with local elected officials, with community leaders, as well as others in the community. I would say that I think it's gone overwhelmingly well, and we've gotten an overwhelmingly positive response from the community there. And that's partially through it being a dialogue. And the library book delivery project came about through this dialogue where the librarian approached us and we said, we can do this, and we can help provide you a bit of assistance as you're working on remote learning. So I know I'm over time, but thank you very much. Thanks, Tanya. Thanks to Small UAV for allowing me to share what we're doing in providing drones for good. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Nick. Exciting to see what you all are doing with library books, especially. I've got 2 kids at home doing remote learning, so we'd like some of those library books. Next up, John Graber from Workhorse Aerospace.
Hey, thanks, Tanya. Good afternoon, everybody. I run the aerospace division for Workhorse, and we're going to talk to you about our last mile delivery solutions and how they are working and making drones for good. It's really important to us. Next slide. Our business is based in Cincinnati, Ohio. We've been in the last mile delivery business. Brian, yeah, you're going too fast for me. Thank you. Perfect. We're in the last mile delivery business for about 13 years. We started in making surface delivery vehicles. We have a couple of generations of them. We have the software that allows those vehicles to be efficiently used. And we have the ability to help sustain those vehicles by transforming what the business is doing from a carbon fuel, fossil fuel platform to all electric. Next slide, please. We assemble everything in Indiana or Ohio. We have 2 facilities here. We're a Made in America company, and we produce hundreds of vehicles a year. Next slide. So we have a generation 1 ground vehicle and then a second generation. And what strikes you about these vehicles is that instead of 4 or 5 miles to the gallon, like most of the big trucks you see carrying your stuff to your house, ours get 32 miles to the gallon, for the first generation and 40 for the second. But that's not enough when you think about the last mile and what it needs to be going forward. So we got into the aerial delivery business. Next slide. And we're taking this from the point of view of a delivery truck. So we've built a vehicle. We've been flying it for 4 years now, hundreds of deliveries in 3 states. We're just an OEM. We're an original equipment manufacturer. We're not an operator. Our goal is to enable people who are in the last mile delivery space with our products. So our aircraft is a pickup truck, a Jeep. It'll carry 10 pounds. It'll carry it 10 miles, 5 miles out, 5 miles back. It's safe. It's reliable. It's made for ease of maintenance. We're going to have it certificated by the FAA. We're in the pipeline now. It can fly roughly 50 minutes out of every hour for as long as you want to fly it. Rapid battery charging, rapid battery swaps. So we can fly anywhere from 2 to 50 sorties a day. It's well within the capability of the aircraft. As you saw Wing talking about with their great video, we have a very similar system. It's not a tether, it's a winch. We can lower a parcel and we can bring it back up if you're not ready to receive it in your yard. We have a API that you can download for an Apple or an Android system, and you can subscribe for deliveries in our test areas. And we come out and survey your land, make sure it's safe for us to operate there. We show you a notification when our aircraft's on the way, and you are able to say, I'm ready to go. Let the parcel deliver, please. Or you could tell us, gosh, I forgot I left the dog out. My kids are playing in the backyard. I left something out in the back that you guys might hit. Please don't deliver, and we'll bring the parcel back. And you can do that while we're in flight. We make sure that we can always reject the delivery if it meets our customers' needs. And our whole flight planning system is proprietary and really simple to use. We want to enable the industry to succeed. We've partnered with the Moog Incorporated organization to develop this technology. If you know Moog, you know their capabilities. They've been on spacecraft for decades and decades, and they're really good in the engineering and product solution space. Next slide. So when we talk about last mile, I thought this was really interesting. The Harris Poll did a survey earlier this year. The top 10 most essential companies, as judged by about 2,000 respondents, 60% of them are in the last mile business. And the number one most essential company in the United States is the post office. The post office is something that everybody thinks about and nobody thinks about. And that's exactly the kind of organization that we're working to help figure out what they need to do next and how they can do better, particularly in these times. Next slide. This is from the post office's 10K for last fiscal year. The quote is their quote about the pandemic's impact on parcel delivery and consumer behavior. The nation has increasingly relied on the safety and convenience of e-commerce. Of course, that is the new normal. We expect it to be the new normal. If you think about the volume that's out there, just the post office, that doesn't include Google, FedEx, UPS, DHL, Amazon, none of that, just the post office, 129 billion pieces last year, of which 7.3 billion were parcels. And that 7.3 billion is only 6% of the total volume, but it's 39% of the post office's revenue. I bring that up to say, if you think about what drones can do in sustainability and renewability by taking even our 7,000-pound truck off the road when it's delivering a 10-pound package, and you can deliver it instead in our 22-pound aircraft, 10-pound package, 22-pound aircraft, that's better for everybody. And the volume is out there. You take vehicles off the road, as Nick just said, you take carbon out of the air, and you make the world a safer and better place. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Last but not least, we have Brad Anderson from Yamaha Motor Corporation.
Thank you, Tanya. Hi, my name's Brad. I work with Yamaha Motor Corporation. We actually, although in terms of drones being for good, I know this is more of a recent topic, especially here in the US. However, with Yamaha, drones are something that have become more of a mature tool in Japan. If you go to the next slide, Brian. In terms of Yamaha's history, they have over 30 years of producing a UAS platform. The first UAS platform was introduced actually in 1991 for commercial use, and that was for spraying rice paddies in Japan. To date, Yamaha's produced over 5,000 units. Currently, there's over 2,000 Yamaha helicopters that are in operation. 3 different platforms, the RMAX, the Phaser, and the Phaser R. Prior to the RMAX, we also produced a platform called the R50, which was the one produced in 1991. So over these nearly 30 years, we've produced 4 different platforms. Currently, from a global scale, our units are being operated in Japan and Korea, as well as Australia, New Zealand, the US, and most recently, Thailand. The markets that it serves, as I mentioned, rice paddies is the biggest market, as well as sugarcane that they're spraying in Thailand, wine grapes, which is what we are doing here in the US, and weed abatement, which has kind of been the core focus in Australia and New Zealand. In Japan, roughly 1/3 of all rice paddies are actually sprayed using an unmanned helicopter. It's actually kind of equal. About 1/3 of them are sprayed by manned helicopter, 1/3 by unmanned helicopter, and then about 1/3 are still sprayed by hand. And here in the US, we were actually the first company to earn a Part 137 certificate, which we obtained from the FAA in 2016. And the Part 137 certificate is basically your crop duster's license. It approves you to conduct aerial application, or as the FAA likes to say, dispense economic poison. One thing that is a little different about our platforms is we always fly nose out. So the operator and the aircraft will never be face to face. A couple of reasons we do that. Number one, for safety and ease of operation and teaching. That way for the pilot, left is always left, right's always right. And secondly, there is a light system that's on the back. You can't see it in the picture there, but that light system communicates to the pilot, and it kind of serves as a sense similar to the way your dashboard does in your car. And it can give you particular warnings, whether it be low fuel, GPS is disconnected, engine trouble, a variety. I believe there's about 100 different colors and symbol combinations that it can communicate different alerts back to the pilot. If you go to the next slide. In terms of what we are doing here in California or here in the US, our spray team is based out of Napa, California. Our main market is providing fungicide applications for wine grapes. So we do applications in Napa as well as Sonoma. We typically have about a 2 to 3 person team. A lot will depend on the size and complexity of the site. And our teams will do all of the mixing, loading, and then application of the chemicals. We do also have, in the US, we have also developed a terrain following autopilot, which is extremely important for us in agriculture. One of the unique challenges that exists in the Napa market is they have a lot of smaller vineyards that are planted on quite steep hillsides. So the terrain following autopilot was really essential for us to be able to do these applications in a safe and efficient manner. To give you kind of a frame of reference, I believe the steepest hillside we do is about a 38-degree slope, which I think could be problematic for more of your off-the-shelf autopilot systems. However, for ours, we're able to utilize it successfully, which takes a huge operation burden away from the pilot, where they are able to basically supervise the flight rather than actually controlling it the entire time. And what we really do is serve more as a replacement for backpack spraying. So a lot of people, when they see drone aerial application, they think, oh, you're going to replace crop dusters. That's not the message we like to communicate. We see ourselves more as a complement to crop dusters. Crop dusters are able to apply such large volumes in terms of acreage, as well as their efficiency and cost. We really can't compete with them in those 3 areas. We really are more of a complement to them for smaller acreage, hillsides, tight areas, spot applications, or high-risk areas. So for example, rather than having a manned crop duster fly underneath power lines, we believe it makes much more sense to utilize an unmanned aerial system for these sorts of applications, so that you can kind of remove the manned pilot from these high-risk, dangerous areas. In addition, a lot of crop dusters typically will turn down fields unless they meet a certain minimum acreage. So we believe that you could really utilize a UAS in some of these small acreage scenarios where we really envision it can be a good fit. And then moving forward, we are working to type certify our most recent platform, the Phaser R. We've been working with the FAA on that for the past couple of years. Once we do obtain that, we do plan to eventually lease units so that hopefully there will be more widespread adoption of this in the agricultural market. So thank you guys, appreciate the time, and appreciate you guys having us participate.
Thanks so much. Thanks for all of those presentations. If we can get everybody's video turned back on. It's really exciting to see all these uses of drones, fighting fires, delivering library books, protecting the nation's wine supply. Thank you for that, Brad and Yamaha. I started my job at Politico just as Part 107 was being finalized and implemented. And my first week on the job, I went to the White House for an event kind of like this one, showcasing the beneficial uses of drones. And it really blew my mind. I mean, I had thought of drones as something that people with big backyards like to play with, or sometimes a weapon of war. And I just did not know that they could be used for search and rescue and natural disasters and infrastructure inspections and just all of the amazing uses, and they just seem to be multiplying. I mean, and you guys blew my mind again today, so thank you. And I'm sure I'm not alone here in not knowing some of those uses for drones. And so I'm curious where kind of what your read is on where people are now with public acceptance of drones, and specifically the reception that your own company's operations have gotten where you operate. Have you been able to win over people who are skeptical of drones? And we can start with anyone.
I can talk of my experiences at both a Flurry and an Iris, having both done demonstrations of drone delivery or beyond, or simulated beyond visual line of sight or actual beyond visual line of sights, both in the United States and overseas. And it was amazing. I talked to people and they would say, "Gosh, that's wonderful. When can I have that?" I can recall doing a delivery in Reno to some kids, and we basically flew over some slushies, and those kids just took that for granted for the rest of their lives, that the flying crane is going to bring them slushies for the rest of their life. So what I've observed is a great acceptance, and where people were concerned when we showed them our technology and we showed them what we were trying to accomplish, they rapidly gain an appreciation for that. So like I said, I've enjoyed a great acceptance of the things we're trying to do in a variety of applications using drones.
And I would tell you that we've flown thousands of flights. We fly in public airspace. We fly in public places. People come to see us all the time. And they always want to know 2 or 3 things. Is that how much noise it makes? Is it really that quiet? Because we pay a lot of attention to quiet. Do you really fly that high? And do you deliver from that high? Because our winch can operate from 100 feet. And then the third one is, how do I know what you're doing with the data? Are you taking pictures over my house or not? And once we get through those 3 questions, the noise speaks for itself, the winch speaks for itself, the camera, of course, we have cameras because we use them for landing in people's backyards, but only vertically and in the descent. Once you talk to people about that, most of them come right around.
Yeah, and I would add
I think
too.
Sorry, this is Nick with Wing. I would actually echo a lot of what John just said. That was our experience. I led our community engagement and outreach efforts in Virginia prior to launching service there. So I was on the ground doing quite a lot of communication and conversations with the community members. And we would actually, I think we had a very similar experience in that the concerns that we would hear generally could be put into those 3 same buckets, where we would categorize them sort of as your privacy concerns, your safety concerns, and noise concerns. And I think part of that is the fact that the drone industry originally came out of the defense world and from military applications. And you have drones out there that are named Predator or Global Hawk, and they have very different applications than what our drone does. And so some people might have preconceived notions of exactly what the drone technology does. The other thing, to John's point as well, is the privacy. Everybody is worried about what kind of a camera we may have on our drones, and what we are taking video of, what we're doing with that data, how we're storing it, where it might be going. Those are all questions, though, that we've been, I think, pretty effective in being able to explain where we're coming from, being very transparent with our processes. And once we've done that, and once we've been able to engage in those one-on-one conversations, we found that people really walk away from the conversations with a pretty high comfort level with our technology. So we found that it's very effective to be able to get out there and speak to people directly. It involves a real education campaign. Because some people have these preconceived notions that aren't fully in line with what some of these technologies are doing. But I think it's something that everybody in the industry and everybody who's supportive of the industry should really be focused on in helping sort of spread the gospel about all of the good things that we can do, and a number of the different sort of specific and targeted technologies that and how we've gone about addressing some of those concerns that are out there.
And Tanya, I'd just say one more thing on what Nick said. Community acceptance is everything. It's exactly, your question is just spot on, because if we don't have community acceptance, or if we lose community acceptance, the industry will die. It'll never start. We have to be safe, quiet, accepted by the community. We can't make headlines. People don't even need to know we're there until the package shows up in their backyard. And if we do anything else, we fail. We have to be the bus running down the street that nobody thinks about anymore.
I want to just make sure that the audience knows also, if you have a question at any point, please feel free to put it in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get to as many questions as we can. For those of you who participated in the UAS integration pilot program that ended last month, and the FAA has now stood up the Beyond program, I also don't know what that stands for, to continue to do the work. Can any of you report on kind of how that's going with Beyond, how that transition is going, and what Beyond is expected to do for UAS integration?
Well, our experience here in Reno is that of the original 10 governmental entities, tribal nations, states, cities, 9 of those completed the IPP program, and 8 of those have transitioned on to the Beyond program. To best of my knowledge, Beyond stands for nothing more than beyond, taking the next steps in understanding what it takes to fly operations over people and to fly beyond visual line of sight. But our experience in Reno is that the FAA has been working closely with Reno to understand the kind of projects that Reno would like to work on. The FAA Reno has been engaging with private partners like Iris Automation to solve these kinds of problems. And so we're seeing a relatively seamless transfer of shifting from the IPP program to the Beyond program. We have some responsibilities to articulate what we bring to the fight, if you will, to improve quality of life and improve safety, and more specifically what our technology can do. And we're working with other entities who operate aircraft to do that. Because again, our fundamental focus, unlike some wing and workhorse, is that we provide the detection technology. So we're looking to work with great entities who want to fly those aircraft under these missions. So I think we're, it's early in the process, and there's always challenges in the middle of a pandemic and going into the winter season. But we're excited, and we think that the transfer to the Beyond program, from my perspective, is going very, very well.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, I would add to that as well. Ring was, we were part of the Virginia IPP, and we found there to be a lot of benefit to what we got out of that. We started our, we got our Part 135. We started our first U.S. operation under the IPP. We've been able to continue that successfully through working with the FAA, so that we could get extensions on the approvals needed to fly post IPP in Virginia. So we're doing that, and the way that we see Beyond is that it can really be a very helpful step forward in providing more of those building blocks towards expanded operations. In addition to getting critical rules out there like remote ID and working towards beyond line of sight and all of that, we want to be able to make sure that all of these different building blocks are in place so that we can effectively scale up to a much more meaningful, provision of our services. To date, the jury's still out. It's still, I think we're about a month in for Beyond. So we're still trying to see exactly where things are headed. community engagement is also going to be an element of that for us, and our work with Virginia Tech's MAP test site. But to date, I think there's a positive element to what we're going to be able to get out of Beyond. So we're happy to be a part of it.
And Tanya, I would tell you that it's existential in the United States. I was very impressed. One of the very first things Representative Larson said was, is the FAA going to decide to support innovation here, or will it occur in other nations? And that's beyond, right? If that rolls the way it should, if IPP continues the way it can, innovation will happen here. And the United States will go faster, farther than anybody else. And if it doesn't, we'll fall behind.
Absolutely. We saw in some of your presentations that, and you mentioned the pandemic, that the pandemic has created some opportunities for drone delivery and perhaps greater public acceptance. Can you talk also about the obstacles that it has created and how it's affected your work?
Well, within my team, I alluded to, I have 8 pilots, and we have something on order of like $750,000 worth of general aviation and UAS assets that we fly routinely. So I'm a little bit like the National Football League. We're a team sport. Nothing is done individually. We operate as a team. We brief. We maintain the aircraft, and so that's required us to be extraordinarily thoughtful about social distancing, PPE. Everybody being keenly aware that the health of the team is really fundamentally at the responsive to how well each individual take care of themselves when they're not working as a team. So we knock on wood, we haven't had any events that's put us down as a team, and so I think in many ways it's made us closer. A team that was already very, very close to understand their responsibilities to each other, not only when on the work site and operating as a team, flying our aircraft, but also off the work site. So it's been a tremendous challenge, and I've been incredibly proud of my team that have stepped up and ensured that we've been able to safely continue our flight operations. So again, we can provide our customers the safest possible detection technology.
The good news about what we do is so much of it's outside. And I was in the field all morning this morning with our team. It's 26 degrees here in Southwest Ohio, but we're flying in the snow. And that's neat because we can have social distancing. It's no problem as long as we're not in the van and we mask up there. It's exactly what Mark said. The obstacles we face are, it's fun. I was going to say not exotic, but how do you call something COVID related not exotic? But we follow the 4 rules and we try to keep the team safe and healthy, and then we continue with our work. Engineering side's a little different. We've had to actually move into larger space to keep everybody farther apart. Flight ops, tech ops, we're able to be outside a lot, and that's very helpful.
Yeah, I think the biggest is logistics, really. How do you move a team of 5 or 6 people around? Because you can't have them in the same cars now, right? So it used to be you put a bunch of people in a van and some equipment and you go to a site location, and now you have to separate everybody. So it does increase a little bit of complexity to just going outdoors, having, maybe 5 or 6 cars show up when maybe only 1 or 2 would have been the same in the past. But it's what we do to keep everybody safe. And I think just listen to everybody as they're echoing the same commitment that we're doing whatever it takes to make sure that our people and customers are kept equally safe.
I would actually add one more thing. I'd echo, first of all, what David was saying. Logistics has been a real challenge for Wing, just being able to get people and aircraft moved around the country, around the world, getting it to where it needs to go. We've had to shut down our test site for periods of time so that as we're developing additional new technology, I think we've seen a little bit of a lag in that as well. And the other component is that, a lot of our our work right now involves working hand in hand with the FAA. So as we're working towards getting a type certified aircraft, they need to be on the scene, being able to witness flights and being able to see exactly what's going on. And so there are challenges from that respect, simply because there are limitations on travel for federal government officials as well for some of this. So I think all in all, I think the industry as a whole has done a great job in showcasing the promise and the opportunity of the technology, and it being an inherently contactless kind of delivery or transport solution. But at the same time, we've seen impacts and things have been knocked a bit off schedule, just as everyone else has.
Great. So as you all demonstrated in your presentations also, there's a lot that you can do under Part 107 without getting a waiver, but it is limiting. And for a lot of use cases, you do need a waiver, at least to operate beyond visual line of sight of the pilot. What, for those of you that have been through it, what has your experience been like with the FAA waiver process?
Well, we've flown beyond visual line of sight as part of the Kansas Department of Transportation. We did it up at that IPP site. We did it up in Alaska with the Alaska Pipeline, with the University of Alaska Fairbanks, Quasi being the lead entity there. And what I found is that the FAA has been very collaborative. They want they understand the challenges. They understand the importance of being able to do this, but also they're fundamentally mindful of the mandate to keep the national airspace as safe as possible. And so what I've seen is they're taking a risk-based approach and giving us an opportunity to demonstrate and provide the data necessary to show how that could be done in these specific use cases, and so that the FAA can build confidence in the more general sense going forward. So I found it to be a very collaborative process. It's from our perspective, it's very exciting, and we're looking forward to continuing that process going into beyond.
Yeah, I think for us as well, we found it to be a very collaborative process with the FAA. I will say in one place where we're trying to go is being able to move beyond having to get waivers and exemptions. They're incredibly useful for what they are, because we are doing entirely new things with entirely new technology. So that means the current rules may just not apply to us. But it's a lot of work to go into to getting approvals for one specific scenario or one specific kind of flying situation, which isn't really sustainable or scalable. So we're interested in working with, and I think the FAA has been open to this, but trying to move towards a situation or an approach where we don't have to look at one-off scenarios, and we can truly work towards getting an approval structure in place that's going to allow for much more rapid scaling, while not sacrificing safety at all. But that's what we're working towards is a fundamental kind of shift in how we're able to go about getting approvals and getting aircraft certified.
Yeah, to that point, what more do you need in terms of regulatory authority to be able to scale up your operations and deliver these benefits across the country? Brad, let's start with you.
Yeah, I know, from our perspective, one challenge we are encountering on a regular basis is a lot of the FAA's focus is really on the Part 135 area in the package delivery, which we totally understand. But it makes other areas kind of have to not fight for scraps, but kind of figure out the way to move forward. A lot of the efforts are in that area. And I think, for us in the type certification area, it's difficult to know where to go when the road hasn't been built yet. So there's been a lot of twists and turns that feel unnecessary. in terms of there just not being a set process sort of in place. And even once we obtain that certification, then having to operate underneath the manned rules, where, for example, we will need to have an A&P mechanic work on our unit, not somebody that knows how to work on our unit. So there's going to be a lot of complexities that still need to be worked out. The A&P mechanic is probably the best example I can give you, where we have our employees that can literally take the engine apart and put it back together without a manual. But once we're type certified, they no longer can touch that unit out in the field. So I think there's a lot of struggles in terms of there that will be fleshed out moving forward, as well as sort of for us with spraying, what are the PPE requirements? We will have to follow what's on the label, which requires a pilot to wear gloves. And any of you that fly a UAS, wearing gloves is not a safety. It does not enhance safety. It reduces it because of your feel for the sticks. So that's another thing where I know the state of California just needs data in order to kind of modify what those PPE regulations are, because we are removed from the platform when it's applying the product. And it's the only instance I can think of with regards to that in agriculture. So I know that there are a few areas that really would make things better for us in the future, but we'll take time to get there.
Anyone else want to speak to scaling up? What it's going to take to be able to scale up? Okay, can move on. I asked Congressman Larson what Congress.
I can, Tanya.
Oh, sorry. Go for it.
Tanya, I'm happy to add just a couple more thoughts if you'd like. But I do think, as I was mentioning before, we need a lot of these building blocks in place. So some of that is going to involve developing a comfort level with our safety owners. I think being able to have remote ID in place will help in that regard. We're also going to be able to going to have to see some better, or at least some progress on some of these other key components, such as being able to fly beyond line of sight, ops over people, all of those things, so we can expand operations. And being able to expand operations is really key to scalability. So we're excited for what 2021 and the few years following that. I think there can be a lot of progress made in the next few years. It'll be critical to success.
Great, thanks. So back to my other question about Congress, I'd asked Congressman Larson what Congress's role is, and I'm curious also what your lobbyists and government affairs people are asking of Congress when you meet with them. What are you asking them to do? What do you think their role is in the next couple of years?
I think from our perspective is just to continue to fund and encourage the FAA to open a national airspace to UAS operations under a safe paradigm. And so I think that that's what we all want, and I think we've been encouraging our representatives to help the FAA have the resources to be able to do that. So from my perspective, give the FAA the resources to execute a beyond program that gives the FAA the confidence they can now promulgate regulations, so that again, we've any number of my peers here have noted that the ability to scale up is not based on a one at a time waiver. It's by having a set of regulatory approvals and paradigms so that we can operate under. So that's been our focus.
And last question, the FAA last week published some proposed airworthiness criteria for 10 UAS models, most of them for package delivery. For those of you who are going through UAS type and airworthiness certification, what does this mean for advancing drone operations?
Well, for us, it helps us understand what the administrator's office is comfortable with. What his, the old joke, scout is somebody lying in the field, a pioneer is somebody lying in a field with an arrow in his back. You don't want to be the first one to do anything. You want to be the second or third or fourth. You don't ever want to fly the alpha model of anything. You always want to fly the Bravo, Charlie, or Delta. So those applications, some of the people on this call are party to them. They've spent a lot of time, a lot of money with a lot of really good people at the FAA staking out the corners of the paper and what's going to work. And it helps organizations like us. We're in the FAA pipeline, but not nearly as far along. But it helps us understand what the Los Angeles office is thinking about. All of these are going through the Los Angeles ACO, and they have a really good set of people out there, and it helps us understand some of the ground that's already been plowed.
Yeah, John's actually spot on that. We've been one of the first to go through it, and it being one of the first comes with quite a few challenges and struggles. And so I think if you ask this question to every person going through it, you probably get mostly unique answers. And I think a lot would be reflected in terms of when they started the process. So I think the fact that they're getting closer to having more of a standard process for UAS, I think is a very good step. And I think will help new companies in terms of making that decision, whether or not they want to make the commitment towards it. I know from talking with them, long-term, they envision it being less than a year process to obtain the type certification. And I think that would be a great step or a great kind of end goal to have that.
Well, if that is all the comments, I want to thank you all for a great conversation, and thanks also to the Small UAV Coalition for having me, and to the audience for being with us, and have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.